In the spring of 2012, we traveled to Oregon to speak with several informants whose understanding of the Sasquatch phenomenon we hold in high regard. We were not after evidence or the usual tales, which can be found plentifully elsewhere. The essay that resulted, while in no way comprehensive, represents a cross-section of insights and emotional anecdotes that we believe may be valuable.
Well, I used to be, in my younger days, more of a hunter, and I had Sasquatch experiences, and I feel that they were many, and I was like sometimes tracking and looking for him as a hunter. And I've even known people that professionally hunted for him when I was in my teens, late teens and early 20s, but now it's completely different. Probably the last 15 years it's been, more respect of life.
Well, starting from a very young age, probably toddler age, our family cabin was close to Mount Lassen, east of Redding in Northern California, and we went there. We spent a lot of time there in the summertime especially. And one of my fondest memories is hearing the howls and the screams in the woods at nighttime. And you would think, especially a small child, would be very fearful of that, but I never felt fearful of it. I always felt like I could feel it in my heart. I could feel like almost calling me to be with this sound. It was very familiar, and I just remember it as wanting to be there. I wanted to hear it.
When I moved out here, neighbors in this immediate area were telling me in casual conversation that, yeah, we got that going on. And up until that point, as a science teacher, I was just using it as an example of pseudoscience. Show the film every year, In Search Of, narrated by Leonard Nimoy, Grover Krantz. I will say that the film impressed me with the degree of credibility to the evidence which I had not been aware of. So that gave me pause, but only when I moved out here did I really start to take it seriously, and that was only because people around me were saying, no, it's not a joke, it's a deal. And I was like, no way. And they said, way?
I never thought anything of the experience until I was about 15 years old, and I was walking into the library, and I found a book called The Sasquatch File by John Green. And the first page I opened it to was my grandfather's sighting. And I've been on my walk ever since. And in 2010, it led to my first experience. And I view that as something spiritual. Other people have talked about families being contacted, family members of the same bloodline, and I feel that there's something there to that.
My father, completely sane and solid and peaceful, and I had no idea what he knew. And the first time that we talked about it, and he said, he goes, no, that's your friend. That's your friend. He's always going to be with you. I will have those moments when I forget to look for him with my spirit. Instead, I'm looking, with right here, right now. Where are you? I want you here now. And it doesn't work like that. But like I said, he's always there. But it's what eyes and ears are you looking with, what part of your heart.
Growing up, my parents would make these sojourns into the Mount Jefferson area every summer for about 3 weeks. And so I was up there for an extended period from when I was a newborn up until I left for college. I would narrate these, just sort of oratory stories about hairy people in the woods, huge hairy people in the woods. And I heard one of these recordings later, when I was like probably in my early 20s, I must have been like 5 or 6.
I always thought people were lying to me somehow, and what I didn't realize was I was actually reading the subconscious, and I was reading the body, that I was getting 2 levels of information, and for me, the subconscious information that was going on in them was much louder. And then, you know how one thing leads to another, and I found myself working in my early 20s with doctors as a medical intuitive, and then I've worked with the police over the years. And then interspecies communication sort of happened also. I was swimming with dolphins in Florida and had a number of encounters, realizing that they were actually talking to me. And the communications are very clear, very specific, very intelligent, very connected, working with me.
From the first night, I began to notice that as soon as I put the cameras out, the situation would either stop altogether or shift to over here, or but something was going on. But still, I wasn't prepared to accept that possibility until other things also happened. Probably the most important single event was when I spent all night whacking always 3 times, just like a good little BFRO investigator, and finally gave up at the crack of dawn and drove home. And as soon as I got home, traveling 100 miles between there and here, I didn't get out and shut the car door before whack, whack, whack came from that woods. The repercussions of that were obvious, that somebody was messing with me. I thought I was being the experimenter, and the tables just turned.
I graduated from Berkeley in the early 70s with a degree in history, and got married and started a family, and did my normal thing, and ended up with a professional career both in California and Hawaii. When I came to the Siskiyou Mountains in 1999 from Hawaii, I wasn't looking for Sasquatch. I wasn't even frankly thinking about Sasquatch that much at all. But soon after arrival, I began hearing, both telepathically and in real time, hearing Sasquatch and seeing Sasquatch. And Sasquatch immediately became an important part of my life. I mean, it was undeniable. I couldn't deny it. I didn't really want to necessarily, but,
When you say you were hearing from them, what were you hearing? Were you getting feelings more, or impressions, or were you getting specific concepts?
Well, by that time, my spirit practice had developed to the point where I get visions, and I know they're from spirit. It's not a wandering of my mind. I could smell them. I could smell their presence in spirit. That's hard to explain, but and I would get words from them. I would hear their words. I would hear them in my heart, and on occasion, I have heard them speaking, verbally, vocally. Their words are always simple. They're not primitive. They're very profound. It doesn't take them a lot of words to get their point across.
With these creatures, there's just a massive amount of information you can gather just from being around them. And what I'm talking about are the sounds they make. I have a very good sense of smell, so I got accustomed to a type of young horse smell. And they're very interactive vocally. I'm not sure how they hide themselves as well as they do. They have this remarkable ability. And I went into it basically thinking that they were, just primates like we are. In fact, I thought they were probably apes of some sort, maybe Cro-Magnon level intelligence, something like that at the very most. The more I was around them, I just came to realize that that's not the case at all.
No encounter is ever by accident. Very, very few. I think, a handful out of thousands. Sasquatch are very aware, and they come into these areas with people to show there is something else. There is something here. And you may not have any respect for all the other animals, but we may be something that will convince you to think differently. They're coming with a question. Why don't you love yourselves enough to love your planet?
The big hairy folk are an amazing expression of life. They're definitely primate. They have their moods, like humans do, likes and dislikes, but they have a connection to the planet that we haven't yet achieved. And over the years of interacting with them and having them share with me, I've gotten some really interesting perspectives on how else we might treat each other, ourselves, and our planet. For instance, one of the things that a female shared with me once was that when they eat food, they are partaking of something that the earth gives, an expression of the earth, an extension of the earth. And that when they eat it, when they consume it, and when they acknowledge its source and its value, that acknowledgement, that value is a way of saying thank you.
Everything's here for a purpose. All the animals, the rocks, the dirt, the trees, the plants, all the herbs that we have for medicines. It all means something, and it can all be used. And you have to give back. I spent a lot of my time playing in the woods and being in the woods, hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, and why I see the things that I do, I really don't fully understand, except for that, you know, I feel good in my heart. And the more time goes by, the more I understand that there's a reason for me seeing what I'm seeing. When I was younger, the incidences that I had were physically seeing Sasquatch, the whole being. Mostly now the images I get are traces. Things going so fast you can barely see them. Just, it's light, but it's a humanoid figure, and it's quick. And I really feel that Sasquatch is here for the good.
The other thing that I've found that dolphins and Sasquatch do very well is what I call backing and forthing. It's the capacity, the ability to move between realities, and again, that's another whole subject, understanding the nature of reality, that it's like living in a large house, and each room is a different reality. There's the kitchen with all of the rules of kitchen rules, and there's bathroom rules, and there's bedroom rules, and there's living room rules, and each place has its own function and its own way of being. We do something completely different, and yet it's all still part of the house. And so it's like that. It's like Sasquatch live in the living room, and we're in the kitchen, and we're very busy in the kitchen, and we have no cognizance of the other rooms in the house. And suddenly one walks in from another part of the house, and we get real startled, like, where'd you come from? It's like, well, I was just over there. And they have a cognizance of the other rooms in the house, and they're able to walk back and forth between the rooms. They're able to stand in the doorway and observe what's going on in a room without entering. And as we evolve as a species, as Homo sapiens evolve, we're becoming more sensitive to who's walking through the room, and to the existence of the other rooms.
By about the third week, he solidified. Every single time when first appearing into the bedroom, yes, ethereal. You could look through him, sort of. There was the shape. Then he would sit on the bed would depress. You know, there was weight, there was creak. I don't remember exactly how or when it blended. I just remember that there was a time when just sitting there, there's a solid body there. The breath in my ear was probably the strongest thing. He would say my name in my ear, and I could feel the breath, the warm breath on my ear.
I found that the more I studied the subject, even in remote places, the more I got subtle indications that the subject was studying me. That really put a chill in me in a way, because that's not something you can undo. Now they, at least hypothetically, know where you live. So that was a sobering thought, but at that point I also could see that there was no menace to it. My initial reaction to it all was actually skepticism and doubt, because that's the science guy I still was. So it really took a lot before it all started to sink in, which is, I suppose, to say I'm a little bit thick. But I was also trying to be empirical and scientific. So I wanted not just evidence, indications, I wanted good evidence. Little by little, I think I came to understand that we're never going to get irrefutable evidence, because it's perhaps not in their best interest to give us that. So what I tell people now, when they say, I got them going on back there, what should I do? And I tell them, well, the first thing I do is decide what you want out of your research. Do you want understanding, or do you want proof? They're sort of mutually exclusive. If you chase after proof, you may or may not get it, but you're also going to find that it distances you from this degree of understanding and inspiration and something metaphysical happening. But what does oddly tend to happen is you get these synchronicities, these odd coincidences, that sort of opportunities and things come your way that seem to be somehow steered. It gets a little spooky, and it's nothing that you can ever prove, but once you learn to sort of just go with it and maybe use it to the extent that they're willing to let you use it, it becomes potentially beneficial.
I feel the four main ingredients that have gotten me to where I am in my spirit work and my communication with the Sasquatch people were, number one, what I said about meditation for the last 35 or 40 years. And in addition, then in 1995, my near-death experience, which was very transformative. And in the late 90s, shortly thereafter the near-death experience, I undertook the study of interspecies communication and shamanic journey work and just shamanic work in general. However, I don't feel like those are all necessary ingredients, except perhaps the meditation, for anyone to do this. I feel like times have really speeded up for all of us on the planet, and children are being born that can do what I do. I really do feel like anyone can do it, but being in your heart is absolutely critical, and meditation is probably the single most significant way to get there.
Something's going to be happening here in our future in terms of mass change in belief about what we know about nature and the planet and ourselves, that will make us much more able to accept the Sasquatch beings and all other mysteries on this planet. We'll be able to accept them and integrate them because we'll have been brought together.
I think we're entering an interesting period in human history, and possibly even, the way the universe and the solar system is operating. And whether or not you can call that the age of Aquarius, if you're into the New Age belief system, or the idea of cycles. We had the widening gyre of the Golden Dawn people. The poet William Butler Yeats, wrote of the widening gyres. He believed in 2,000-year cycles. I think there's a lot of speculation at this time involving that type of thing. And so timing is of the essence. These creatures are somehow involved in it.
Sasquatch is getting closer to us all the time. They're coming into our room more and more frequently as more of us are becoming intuitively capable of perceiving them. What they see is that each species has a unique approach to it and a unique contribution to it, and an important contribution, so that without if any one of those contributions goes missing, none of us move. That we're all connected, that this is something we are doing together, and that it's important that we're doing it together. So they're eager to help when we're open. They don't want to force anything on us, so they go at our pace. But they will absolutely give them half a chance, and they'll stretch you. They absolutely will stretch you and give you an opportunity to completely rethink your paradigms.